Almost every dealership has managers, and often a lot of managers. Today, we're going to talk about the particularities of managing managers and how it's different from line level employees. Because the success of your dealership is dependent on the success of your managers. Find out more in this episode of Down Payment.
Welcome to Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers. Prepare to learn something new about the industry that keeps us moving.
Check out all our podcast content on our social media channels. We are at Down Payment Podcast on YouTube, Down Payment Podcast on Instagram, and Down Payment Pod on X. Welcome back. In this episode, we're talking again about managers because we are in a manager-intensive industry. There are a lot of managers in this industry, and let's face it, there's a lot of mediocre managers mixed in with some great managers and everything in between. You've got to, as a dealer, think of your managers as an investment, and it's a super important human resources investment that you really have to put a lot of deliberate time and thought and strategy into. Managing your managers is different from managing line level of employees. Your goal for your managers is for them to operate independently, as opposed to a line level employee. And as a result, you have to hire your managers differently than you would other employees. It's possible for you to hire a great salesperson, and you know that this person is top level sales talent, and you don't have a big training investment you have to have with them, but they also bring all their baggage with them. They are going to be what you hire is what you get, and you're not going to be able to change them. They are well established in the industry already. You already know them. Your competition already knows them because they've worked for your competition. And that's all fine and good. And there's a place for those employees, but you really can't do that with managers. For managers, you need adaptability and trainability. If they don't have those two qualities, you're not hiring a manager that is able to adapt and grow to your operation. You are going to have to adapt your operation to that manager. And for most dealers, that's going to be a poor fit. As we said, your goal with a manager is for them to operate independently. You want them to be able to operate in your place. You don't want to micromanage managers. It's a fatal flaw if you're micromanaging your managers. They're not really managers at that point in time. And so you want to be able to do a test. You know your operation has sound managers if your managers are able to operate without you or the top level leadership present for a few days. If you cannot leave your dealership, if you are stuck directly managing your managers on site, then there's a problem. And it means that you're on some level, you have some flaws in your management. So hire for trainability and work on developing their capacity. And this is where all of the HR interventions that we've talked about in previous episodes apply. I want to get them training. I want to coach them. I want them to cross-train. And one thing is I want interoperability between my managers without me being present. I want them to have good lines of cross-departmental communication. We've talked in a prior episode about communicating up and communicating down. There's also communication that's lateral. One way you can foster this is to have your managers have managers meetings without you as the dealer present. They should be able to communicate and problem solve and work through their routine challenges without you being present every step of the way. They should understand as managers how to coach and mentor. They should understand how to develop policies. And while they might need you for approval of HR decisions, they might need you for approval of policies and procedures. They should know how to implement those management strategies themselves in their own departments. Make sure that where you have things break down and where you have trouble arise if you do leave town for a few days and you do that test, Where you have problems, that's where you need to drive attention to building processes to smooth those out. If your processes and your procedures aren't good, your managers are going to run into areas where they have problems and they don't know how to deal with it. That's where you step in with your expertise and experience with your operation and give them greater structure and framework. And then you train them on that structure and framework. So whenever we develop policies and procedures, we then provide accompanying training to make sure that everyone's oriented to those policies and procedures. And it's a constant process of honing both your policies and procedures and your managers themselves. And so it's not something that you arrived at a certain promised land and all of a sudden you have great managers and you're not needed anymore. You're always going to be needed as the top level leadership in your business, but it's an ongoing effort of constantly polishing and perfecting your management team. That is your most important human resources investment. And if you get that right, you're going to find a lot of success in this industry because so many dealers struggle with it so badly. Try these strategies and find some success there. Now go sell some cars. It's been another episode of Down Payment. Check out our podcast on all our social media channels. We are at Down Payment Podcast on YouTube, Down Payment Podcast on Instagram, and Down Payment Pod on X.
Thank you for listening. Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers, is a production of Meta Financial Services Incorporated.